I've been around bikes since I was a little kid, which is most everybody's MO. But I kind of also grew up around the MC scene. I had like family members, uncles, and all sort involved in it. But as a kid, I was like, hey, yeah, that's cool. It's just a bunch of guys just out having fun and all that shit. And then as I got older, I got into being a rescue diver, got being into firefighting and all sorts of just career stuff where I kind of had this bond with the people that I stood beside. And it was just something that once I got out of it and medically retired from it, that I kind of realized I missed that, because let's be honest, the civilian and just general public, they don't understand it, and they're just a mess, honestly. Like there's like this organization, the structure, the accountability, that type stuff. And so once I got out of being a smoke eater, I kind of just had a void, and I didn't know what it was, and I was filling it in with a bunch of other just meaningless stuff, trying to find out what fit. And then a little bug kind of bit me back in the back of the neck, just being like, hey, maybe you need that structure, that community, the accountability, like the righteous dudes doing righteous deeds type
Absolutely.
environment that I was raised around. I mean, I was growing up in the military as a kid and all that, so my whole life was nothing but structure. And then I started kind of following around and looking into the type of clubs that my family members were a part of, and I was like, okay, that's some solid stuff, but it just didn't really feel my bag. Like it didn't fit exactly inside of that void. So I started looking into more other avenues of clubs, and just even growing up and such, I was always big history buff, so following in the histories and the legacies of things. And I just kind of felt like the 99er set's kind of more my speed and stuff. I think they'd kind of understand me a little more coming from the background that I came from. And I looked into, God, Rogue Soul's been around for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly saw them back when they first started. And I was like, okay, who are these pop-ups? And I started kind of watching them and seeing what they were and how they were moving around, and watching them kind of navigate the set and learn and grow and adapt. And the big thing that caught my attention, what made me reach out to them and stuff recently, was some few years back, they dropped the 3-patch vibe and went to a single patch on their cuts. And I was like, okay, these guys aren't trying to be something that they're not. They're not trying to pretend. They're not doing this Hollywood, hey, we're Sons of Anarchy, so let's just copy this crap.
For those that don't know, fill us in on what a 3-patch is.
So most people's interpretation, I guess, from a general public scheme of things, is 3-patch cuts, or which are the vests that we wear, are usually associated with your 1%ers or your outlaws and a lot of your household name type clubs, and anybody that watches any stupid motorcycle drama shows. And so that's kind of where that vibe came from. And sometimes it could be misinterpreted, because the general public, the people that don't really know much about clubs, everybody's a 1%er in their book.
Right.
And so to kind of step back and show that, look, nothing against those guys, they're doing their thing, they're doing it righteously, they're living their life, and they've found that camaraderie and that network. So nothing but love and respect for all of them that do that. But it's just like anything else in the world. Like, you got to find your niche, like where you fit in, what suits you. Like, if we're all liking vanilla ice cream, then ice cream is going to kind of suck when you look at all the other flavors.
Right.
And so the diversity of it all and is where just MCs in general come in place. And there's difference between like RCs, riding clubs, and MCs being motorcycle clubs. And the thing about the MC set that I like is that there's that higher standard. There's a higher expectation. We're looking at you as, are you a good fit for us, and vice versa. And I just started to watch the Rogue Souls more and more, and looked into it, hanging out around them. And the thing I joke with my prez is, like, we walked the same world. We were just on opposite sides of that globe, like, the entire time. Like, I was watching you guys, and finally it was just like, what made me step up was I'm one of those types of guys, like when I'm in the store or something, I'll find something, I'm like, yeah, I really like that, I could use that, I'm gonna wait.
Yeah.
And I keep doing it, and finally when I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna nut up and go do it, and I'm like, oh, it's gone. And so I'm that type of person where I research and research and research, and then I'm like, all right, never mind. And I talk myself out of it. So my girl was like, look, I see why and the appeal of the club life for you. I don't necessarily understand it, but I see the structure. So she's like, just go talk to him.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, fine. And so, which, you know, I've had no problem going up and talking to other clubs and everything like that, but finally I just kind of walked up because it was one of those things where I've been watching Rogue Souls grow and learn and essentially go from like crawling to walking to running, and I'm on the outside just looking in being like, okay, these guys now have footing, they're not these scrubs, you know, off doing stupid stuff. And so then I approached them and did the whole hang around thing for a while, which is great for anybody that's interested in clubs, because as a hang around, there's no responsibility. At any moment, you could just do the Irish goodbye and just get up and walk. You're just like, I don't care, this beer's coming with me. And so, but after a while, the way most clubs do, it seems, and I can't speak for all of them, but the way, you know, Rogues did is after a while of hanging around and kind of getting a feel for each other, they kind of stepped up to me and were like, look, dude, you seem like you're like a good guy. You seem like you're on the same level as us. You want to prospect? And I was like, sure, why not?
What
And
took
I-
you so long?
Yeah,
You're here every Saturday. I mean, you might as well sign up.
right. Like I was in all the events and doing all the riding and everything with everybody. And it actually, one of our presidents to one of the chapters actually cornered me while I was a hang around in the parking lot or in the driveway of his house one time, and he's like, "Why isn't your application in?" And I was like, "Well, blah 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 with the area that I'm at and stuff." And he's like, "No, you need to have it in." And I'm like, "All right." He's like tomorrow, and I'm like, "All right, tomorrow, I promise." And so it was one of those, like, it wasn't pressure, but at the same time it was like, okay, somebody made the decision that I wanted to make for me.
Sure.
So I'm I'm game for it. And so the funny part too is, like, when I you know, sewed these tabs on and went to see one of my childhood friends, I guess everybody kind of had it in their head with me being in a club, because he walked up and he just, big old dude, we call him Ogre, and he's about as big as this room. And he just snatches me up, puts me on the end like I'm a little Raggedy Ann doll. And then he just grabs my cut like that and just goes, you know, it's about time. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I guess everybody kind of seemed like, I guess I was that type of person in the nature that would be drawn to clubs.
Huh.
And that's the thing, though, but you got your independents out there riding their own ride, you see it a lot and stuff, and they're doing their thing, and it's awesome, and I respect it.
No.
But I feel like clubs more my speed.
Now, when you say club, and I'm referencing something you guys don't know, I was a professional baseball player. So I get the being on a team. I went to college, played baseball. It wasn't firefighting or military or anything like that, but I do understand that brotherhood. Would you say that that's kind of the number one thing that why they say that you're a club guy?
Camaraderie, I think.
Yeah,
is.
like I think for me it's like I said, you know, before, righteous dudes doing righteous stuff. So that's always been my thing. I mean, I've always been a guy that's service driven, community driven. I mean, I've had, you know, basically sworn an oath to my community, just like the military swears an oath to, you know, their country and their nation. And so having something to stand behind and having like-minded individuals, and like the RC scene, most RCs are like, hey, I ride a bike, cool, join us, here, pay your dues and you're in.
Right.
And which is fine, that's all fine and dandy, but for me it was like, yeah, but how do you know whether that guy's worth having that patch on his back?
That makes
And
a lot
so
of sense.
that's where the MC came around for me. And the reason why, surprisingly enough, and some of the people maybe listening that have prospected or are prospecting, I love that part of the prospect. I love, like my thing is, the prospect world and different things you can have and you can read up, and the public like has their interpretations of what a prospect is. Like, I can't do that because somebody's bossing me around. It's like, no, they're just trying to test your mettle. Like, what are you made of? Are you going to sit there and when the pressure hits, are you going to flake out and bail, or are you actually going to stand up and be who you say you are?
Right.
And so that's kind of the vibe that I get. Like, I know every member that I have come across in the Rogue Souls is solid people. Like, I had an accident with my bike. I had a lady cut me off like right on the interstate on I-80.
Oh shit.
And I laid it down, and she was whole hit and run. I'm sitting there alone on the side of the road, and I just straight up hopped on a text, and I was just like, guys, does anybody have a trailer? I just laid my bike down, or just had an accident because, a lady cut me off.
Yeah.
And they were like, it wasn't just, oh, hey, blah, blah, blah. It's next thing I know, my phone's blowing up with everybody, calling, making sure I'm okay. I had several of the club members show up at the scene of the wreck, help me get my bike on the trailer, looked at me, made sure I was okay, made sure we got what information we could for it. And then next thing they know, seeing the type of person I'm in, where I'm just like, I'm just going to go home, I'm going to pour myself some whiskey, I'm going to maybe cry a little. And
behind closed doors, nobody's watching.
I'm gonna cry a little, and then I'm just gonna just slip into some depression for a little bit because I wrecked my baby girl.
Right.
And instead of doing that, everybody was like, all right, get in the car. And I'm like, cool, we're going home. They're like, no, Chapter's got a party over here in Tooele, your butt's going, you need to be with the family. And I'm like, yeah, but I could just be at home with whiskey and my dog. And they're like, you need the family. And so I was like, all right, fine. And it was weird because this was one of those wrecks where I didn't have a scratch on me. Nobody expected it. Like, I went down going about 65, 70.
Whoa.
And I stood up, not even a scratch on my helmet.
What?
Yeah. This is the cut I was
this guy
wearing.
was lucky, dude.
Yeah, this is the cut I was wearing. I'm wearing the jeans I had on.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I stood up without a scratch.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and so everybody was just like, what are you made out of? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, that's when you guys start thinking a little quicker on your feet.
Right, yeah.
Teflon, right here.
There you go. something to slip, I guess. But to have, even as a prospect, to have the entire Rogue Soul Nation just be like, no, you're not alone. Let's figure this out. What do we got to do to help get your bike up on the road? What do we got to do for you? And having them check in constantly on me. Heck, the next morning I had maybe half a dozen, my entire chapter, and half a dozen other members in the other chapters were blowing my phone up. You still good? You need to stop by the house? Need anything? Blah, blah, blah.
That's
and
incredible.
So to have that as a prospect and stuff, and just it let me see the club in a light that I had a lot of respect for, because I'm like, dude, these are righteous dudes. They don't just speak it, they actually embody it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. And I think that really does speak to it. The foundation for all these clubs and whatnot is the brotherhood and the family, like you're talking about. And it's a big deal, and it's very important in guys and girls' life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Like my girl, she had no idea about the club scene, nothing like that and everything until she met me. And she was apprehensive because her knowledge was,
Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, Sons of Anarchy, like that,
You're going out murdering people now.
Yeah. Like her first thing when I told her, hey, I'm kind of looking in the Rogue Soul, she's like, I'm not bailing you out of jail. And I'm like, no, it's not that. I'm like, oh crap.
Why
no.
the opposite?
Yeah, I was like, no, it's the opposite. They're doing good stuff for the community. And she was kind of like, okay, I don't understand it, but this does seem your speed, so I'll support it. And then she started coming around, and now everybody's like, she's like, yeah, they're my brothers too. And there's the wives and significant others or sisters, and the girls go off and plan their own stuff and do their own little adventures. And
I was going to say that's kind of an underrated, something that nobody talks about is the girls have an equal amount of the group feeling themselves.
Oh yeah, with Rogue Souls, you got that old lady, and everybody doesn't understand that phrase, the old lady.
Right.
But so And that's just a generalized thing. It's actually a very honorable thing to be called, because they have to earn that, because at the same time their actions are a reflection of the club member as well. But what the Rogue Souls do is they're a little more, I don't want to say more respectful about it, because an old lady is a very prestigious title.
Right.
I want the public to understand that. That's not, we're not, this
It's a
isn't,
term of endearment.
it absolutely is.
Right.
It absolutely is. It's like if your husband's calling, your wife a sweetheart type thing, or you have like some secret little pet name. But what the Rogue Souls call them, instead of old lady, they're called angels.
Oh, cool.
So it'd be
well,
like,
that's fun.
So it's like Fuego. You'd have like Fuego's angel, and they have their own little.
They have their own little badge and their
get
moniker.
together
Oh, really?
and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. So they're held at a level of high respect and stuff, but at the same time, it's also made very clear that you're your own entity, you're your own thing, but you're not a rogue soul
Right.
type stuff. So don't be like in the military, you come across like the significant others wearing their SO's rank, that
You're
type
right,
vibe. Yeah, you don't get that.
You don't get
You don't
that.
get that with the rogue souls, because there's a level of accountability that even the women keep themselves in check with. So even they're righteous women doing righteous stuff too.
If you'd like that clip and would like to watch another one, click right here. If you'd like to watch the whole video, click right here. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one.